What's going on, everybody? I'm going to be doing a Viking recap on a Tuesday, brought to you by a couple of Sodas Media. So, Minnesota finished the season 9-8, 3 games below where I had projected them. I kind of thought they'd go 12-5, but some bad quarterback play, bad injuries, just all around. I think the biggest thing for Minnesota this year was the bad quarterback play. McCarthy wasn't ready to step in. You had Carson Wentz, Max Brosmer also start games. Neither one of them was the answer. Um, and I've had a couple, Owen and D'Lo on the Wolfpack talk show. Think big reason for Vikings falling off was letting Sam Darnold go. I can't really say much about that. I did want Darnold to stay, but I also wanted to see what they had in McCarthy. Darnold's playing for the NFC Championship this week, but they also have a good team around them as far as what Darnold has down there over there in Seattle. I guess, I do believe Minnesota would be a playoff team with Sam Darnold, but you also don't waste a first-round draft pick on a quarterback to sit him. You gotta see what you have in the young guy. He's still only 22 years old. Time will tell what he's got, but moving forward, you just got to let the kid play. He showed flashes, really good flashes at times. Showed he can make those game-winning drives, but he also showed you some of the worst quarterback play I've ever seen out of a quarterback. And I've been watching football that I can really remember for about 30 years now. So, but anyway, to start out, they finished 9-8. Shaky O-line. They had a bunch of injuries to start the year. I don't think they had their full starting 5 until like week 8 or 9. Again, no excuses. I'm not saying that's why they didn't make the playoffs. That's why, I'm just saying part of the reason they finished 9-8, shaky O-line, bad quarterback play. All 3 quarterbacks that they had take snaps this year were not the answer. Also, wide receivers. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, TJ Hawkinson, all those guys, they led the NFL in drop rate. They had the most drops, I believe. I can't remember the exact number, but it was like 17, 18% drop rate. You can't win games. You can't win the big games dropping the ball. That's just, it doesn't matter who you have playing at quarterback, Max Brosmer, Carson Wentz, JJ McCarthy. It might not be a perfectly thrown ball, but if it hits your hands, you got to catch it. And they were dropping them left and right this year, and it got to be pretty bad. Justin Jefferson, you're making $35 million a year, one of the top paid wide receivers in the league. You got to catch those. Injuries, both sides of the ball. I already said the O-line was banged up, but you also had it on the defensive side as well. Some of the bigger name, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, a lot of your key defensive starters were out for a good portion of the year. Missed, a bunch of them went on short-term IR, which is a minimum of 4 games. You're not going to be able to win games being banged up on both sides of the ball. So, how do we fix it moving forward? McCarthy just needs to get snaps, whether that be, he just needs to get snaps. He just needs to play. And starting with that, he needs to be able to stay healthy. The kid, he needs to learn how to slide right. He needs to learn how to not take those dumb hits. He needs to learn how to just throw the ball away. He showed potential this year. He showed he can manage a game, well, some games, but moving on, you just need to let him play. And where that starts, he just needs to stay healthy. I don't know I don't know if it's something he's only 22. I don't know if he needs to just put on more muscle. I don't know. He just needs to stay healthy in order to get those reps that he needs. You look at all the quarterbacks in his draft, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, and Drake May. A majority of those, other than Michael Penix, have been starting for full 2 years. McCarthy has 7, 8 starts under his belt. He's miles behind the other guys in his draft class, and it shows. You look at Caleb Williams, you look at Drake May, you look at Jaden Daniels this year, but not really this year, but last year. They're very, they're good quarterbacks. They're getting the reps. They struggled their rookie year, but in their second year, they took off. And a lot of that is they can stay healthy and they got the reps. They're just getting, and going from college to the NFL, it's a big speed difference. Some guys can handle it, some guys can't. Can't handle it right away. But moving on, all you got to do for JJ McCarthy is get those reps. And that's where I would start. And if Minnesota doesn't think he's the answer for the head coach, we'll get into that. He just needs reps. So moving on with Kevin O'Connell, he's another reason why they finished 9-8, why they didn't win 2 or 3 more games is because of Kevin O'Connell and his stubbornness to run the ball. When they played the Baltimore Ravens, for example, they were in that game, but McCarthy threw an absurd amount, like 40 some times, and it wasn't needed. They just don't, like, Kevin O'Connell doesn't want to run the ball. He's never wanted to run the ball, and it doesn't. He's very stubborn. He wants those big quarterbacks, big arm, hunt down the field. He wants to throw 30 to 40 times a game. And McCarthy right now is not ready for that. He didn't throw a lot in college. He's not ready to come into the NFL and throw 40 times a game. He's just not. And if Kevin O'Connell is not willing to adapt his play calling to what his quarterback needs, to what they need offensively, then I believe it's time to move on. And I had mentioned a little thing, moving on from Kevin O'Connell and bringing in Brian Flores. Not bringing him in, he's already defensive coordinator. We'll see if he gets a head coaching job, but putting Brian Flores as your head coach and then having Brian bring in an offensive-minded guy to just run the offense, kind of like how Brian right now runs the defense. You bring in a guy, you develop McCarthy, and you just run the offense under that guy, and the defense, which was a top 10 defense past couple years, will remain intact with Brian Flores leading the show. So, I am over Kevin O'Connell to a point if he's not willing to change up his scheme, his offensive play calling. If he's just wanting McCarthy to drop back and throw 30 to 40 times a game, sprinkle in some running plays, sure, that's exciting to see. If he can get the protection, if he can, make the throws, and if his receivers can catch the ball. But you look at last year with Darnold. Darnold is his kind of guy, and it's kind of why I wanted Darnold to come back, is because Darnold is, he's 6'5", 230, big arm. He can throw the ball. And with McCarthy, he's 22 years old. He's got a decent arm, but he's not 6'5", he's 6'3", 210, 215 pounds. He's not a big quarterback like Kevin O'Connell wants. So if Kevin O'Connell is not willing to adjust his play calling, then I think it is time to move on and bring in someone that will call the right offensive game plan. And another thing, it's just time to move on from Jordan Addison. Get what you can, draft pick wise, and just move on from him. The kid is going, he's been arrested again. It's time. You got to move on from Jordan Addison. He's trouble. Was it 3 arrests and 3 off seasons, and he got in trouble when they went over to London? It's time. Just get what you can for him, draft pick wise, whether that be a 3rd or 4th round, and just move on. He's a incident waiting to happen if you keep him on the roster. And I do not think he will be in a Vikings jersey next year. I really think that they are going to move on from him, and I think they should. And the last little thing I have is fire Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the general manager. He can't draft. He's proven that time and time again. His first year as GM, we traded down from the 13 spot to the 31 or 32 with the Lions. Didn't get a first round draft pick back like we probably should have. And we selected Lewis Seen, who I do not believe is active on a roster right now. We passed up on Kyle Hamilton, who went to the Baltimore Ravens and is a Pro Bowl player, really good player, top at his position. And just every single year, Kwesi has proven he doesn't know how to draft. Dallas Turner has looked good, but is still, going into his third year. McCarthy, we don't know yet. But outside of those two, he hasn't drafted anybody. And to be able to build a roster, you have to be able to draft. And not being able to draft means you go out into free agency and you spend the most money that any team did, and which is what the Vikings did last year. And that got them 9 wins. They finished 9-8, spent the most money in free agency because the general manager can't draft. So I think, from what I kind of said, the first thing that I would do is I would let the general manager go. I would fire him, hire someone that can actually draft, and then give a long, hard thought about Kevin O'Connell. Is it time to move on from Kevin O'Connell? I think it could be. And a couple Tuesday trade speculation ideas I have with Kevin O'Connell is moving Kevin O'Connell, trading him to the Buffalo Bills for their first round draft pick this year. And then with that, you would be promoting hiring Brian Flores as your head coach. And moving Kevin O'Connell to Buffalo would give Kevin O'Connell the quarterback he wants. Josh Allen and Kevin O'Connell together would be absolutely scary. And that's just kind of, a little bit of Tuesday trade speculation. Kevin O'Connell to Buffalo. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Buffalo is my AFC team. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Kevin O'Connell is a bad coach. I just think with the offensive play calling and scheme that he runs with a young quarterback, I just think that he needs to have that big quarterback, that veteran quarterback like Josh Allen is. So that is all I have for you today on this wonderful, blistering cold Iowa Tuesday. I will be posting weekly videos about the Vikings and other trade ideas as far as any team around the league, especially now that we're gearing towards the off season. We got the AFC NFC championship games, and then we have the Super Bowl. And so I'm going to be doing a little bit more of what the Vikings can do in the off season and what other teams, in my mind, my brilliant NFL mind, what we can do. Sorry, I'm touching stuff here. So anyway, I hope you will tune back into another episode brought to you. We'll see you later.